everyone. Welcome to day 18 of our 30 days of college advice series. My name is Aryant, and today we're going to be talking about when should you write special circumstance essays. We're going to be talking about what these special or extenuating circumstance essays are, and are they applicable to your college application. Now, before we get started, be sure to like this video below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get the latest videos as we continue our 30 days of college advice series. Now let's get started. First, let's go back to a graphic that I used in a previous video. In this video, where I mentioned this graphic, we talked about the important admissions factors. We really talked about what are the various factors which are the most important in your college application. When you're writing, it is applicable to you to write a special or extenuating circumstance essay, these essays are really about addressing one or more of these factors and why your application may be lacking in these factors. So it could be maybe a low GPA, or it could be a low SAT score. And what this really is, this essay is trying to show the admissions officers any sort of personal experience that may, or personal circumstance that may have affected your results, maybe your test scores, your extracurricular activities, something that affected one of or more of these factors as in your college application. Let's talk about where should you first write this essay. Well, one of the main places students usually write this special circumstance essay is in the additional info section of the Common App. Now, in the Common App, after your personal main Common App essay, there is a section where you can add additional information. Now, there's going to be a separate video that we're going to make on the various things that you can put in that section. But one of the biggest things and one of the main reasons why this section is there is to talk about special circumstances and maybe incorporate it in a sort of essay. So that is exactly where other maybe schools might even have a separate supplemental which allows you to talk about special or extenuating circumstances, and that's just really based on the school. But for the Common App, there's already a place for you to put those essays. Now, let's talk about when should you write it. When is it applicable for you to write it? Well, we're going to be talking about the various circumstances which may be the reason why you should be writing this essay. Again, this essay is mainly for those students who have some sort of special reason why maybe their grades might be lower, maybe their test scores or standardized test scores are lower. A reason where they have an actual, they can actually justify to the admissions officers a special circumstance that happened in their life during their high school time. So that's really when, and we'll be talking more in this video of exactly when are the specific circumstances where you should be mentioning this in your essay. Let's go back to one of the main factors and really justifying this factor. So one of the things you can talk about is if you have a low GPA. Now, this essay should not be a justification for why you continuously are exhibiting bad grades. So if you got maybe C minuses and maybe you failed a couple of classes throughout high school and it was all because maybe you didn't pay attention in class or you didn't prepare, this is not an essay for you to be justifying that and saying that you were just not well prepared. And you just didn't concentrate. This essay is mainly for, if you're talking about a low GPA, maybe there was a sudden drop. Maybe you were an A or a B student and suddenly you dropped and you got a couple of C's one semester. This essay allows you to justify to the admissions officers saying, yeah, I got C's, but this is why. And you can explain to the admissions officers. Remember, admissions officers are human. They understand that there are always something that goes on in life and you can't control certain life events, right? So admissions officers just, again, because they don't personally know you, this is the place to really clearly state any sort of these extenuating circumstances which led to such a thing like a large drop in your grades. You can also talk about if you got low SAT or ACT scores, again, what were the circumstances that led to such a low scores? Or maybe if you got such a low score, why did you not retake it? Again, this is the essay, this is the place where you can be talking about that. Now let's talk about really what are the true circumstances, examples of circumstances where if you experience one or more of these sort of extenuating circumstances, you can potentially write this essay. Now again, this is not a complete list of all sort of circumstances. This is pretty much what is probably most common when people are writing this essay. What do they usually talk about? Now let's talk about the first extenuating circumstance, or the first common extenuating circumstance. That is financial hardships. So maybe in this you are able to answer, well, you're not able to pay for the test, for example. Maybe you didn't score as well in the SAT, the first test. As a result, maybe you could not afford to retake the test again. Maybe you could not, so you had to send in the bad score. This would be the essay where you talk about that, where you talk about how you were not able to afford to retake the test again. So just explain, and the admissions officers understand this. As long as you tell them what went on, they'll be able to understand, and they should be much more lenient in your application for that specific factor that you list in your extenuating circumstance essay. Another thing, were you working part-time? Maybe you had a part-time job. Maybe after schooling, you worked after school ended at 2 o'clock and you started working from 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. because your family needed the money. This is a perfect place to talk about that, because that shows if maybe your grades were lacking or your standardized test scores were lacking, your extracurriculars are lacking. This is the perfect place to show them why, right? This is the perfect place to explain that you had a financial hardship, your family, and so you needed to work. Another circumstance, sibling responsibility. Maybe your parents work continuously. Maybe they're a doctor in a hospital and they just work full-time jobs, really. And so you had to always be at home to care for your younger siblings, so you could not really have much extracurriculars because your extracurricular activity was really taking care of your younger siblings. This is a perfect place to explain that. Another one, commuting to school or changing schools. Maybe talking about, was it hard if you changed to a new school environment? Was it hard to adjust to this new school environment? Was it difficult to make friends? Talk about that there. Again, the more details you can give about the circumstance, the more ability admissions officers have to be able to provide more leniency for your college application when they're looking at it and making the decision. And lastly, one of the major circumstances that you should talk about if this affects you is any physical or mental health conditions. Really talking about maybe you broke your leg in a ski accident, and so for that whole semester you were in bed rest and you couldn't concentrate on your studies. You were really focusing on maybe physical therapy, for an example. This is the perfect place to talk about that. Again, maybe you can answer, how did the condition or conditions affect your learning? If you talk about it clearly, if you are able to give as much detail as possible about your circumstance, then college admissions officers will be much more lenient and in your essay. Again, this is not a place, if you do not have any extenuating circumstances, this is not an essay where you simply justify not being prepared for class or not studying enough. This is not an essay where you should be really talking about this. This is if you have any sort of external factors which played a role and which inhibited you from actually performing better in your academic life. This is the perfect essay to talk about that. And I guarantee you college admissions officers will read it and probably will be more lenient on your application if they understand clearly your circumstances, your extenuating circumstances. So that was all for this video. This was day 18 of our 30 days of college advice series. Stay tuned for the next video. Take care, and we will see you in the next one.